is up, everyone, and welcome back to my channel, Money Strategies for College Grads. In this video, I'm going to give you a behind-the-scenes look at how I became financial coach Jess. I'm also going to show you how much I invested in college versus how much I invested in my business and the ROI on both. But first, I want to give you a little bit of background, and it's probably not what you would expect. In 2010, I enrolled at Missouri State University for education. I had known since probably I was about a sophomore in high school that I wanted to be a high school teacher. Now, I loved Missouri State University. I had a fantastic experience there and made a lot of friends, but the college classes were not very challenging to me, and so I wasn't very interested in them. There were a few professors that I really respected and I enjoyed their classes, but especially in the education department, there was a very negative vibe. The education professors talked a lot about how teachers couldn't find jobs, a lot of teachers quit before their 3-year mark, and more teachers were getting burnt out. And the more I got into my upper level classes, the worse it got. I was one of the few women in our history section of the education department, and I literally had a female professor come up to me and say I was not going to get a job as a high school history teacher unless I coached football. The politics honestly stunned me. I remember getting up and walking out of classes because I just couldn't take it, and I had tried to avoid the negativity as much as I could. While all of this was going on, I was actually working at a home for abused and neglected youth. I really enjoyed and found a lot of fulfillment being a guide and a mentor for them. I was also the head of my household where I lived with 7 other girls. I worked a lot of jobs in college, and I'll probably do a separate video on all the jobs that I worked and how much I was able to make. All in all, the investment for my college education was about $24,000 in tuition, with about $6,000 being my housing the first year because I had to live on campus. Years 2 through 4 was also $6,000 combined, and I had about $1,000 each year in just plain living expenses. So altogether, it was about $40,000 for my 4 years at Missouri State University. And that's not how much I paid necessarily, but that's how much each thing broke down to. In late spring of my senior year, I actually get a call from the high school that I graduated from saying that they're looking for a history teacher. Long story short, I get interviewed and I get the job. I was on cloud 9 for several months. I got to teach my favorite subject, which is world history. Probably not what you expected. I got to coach a sport that I loved, which was volleyball, and I got to start an organization that I was super passionate about, and that was Eagle Ambassadors, which was modeled after university ambassadors that I'd been a part of at Missouri State University. The infatuation really started to wear off around my 2nd year at the school. I started to notice some red flags in the leadership of the school, and I saw immoral traits that I no longer wanted to be under. But at the same time, I felt so guilty for wanting to leave. After all, I landed the dream job at the ideal school, and I'm proving wrong every single terrible professor that I had, and yet I wanted to leave. This was a really tough time where I was struggling with a lot of questions like, do I just have shiny object syndrome? Am I being just seriously ungrateful? What if I can't find another job? What if this is it? Should I just settle? But at the same time, isn't that the point? I knew I was settling. I knew I had more potential. I knew what I saw, and I knew I didn't want to be under this leadership anymore. And so I went to my principal and my superintendent, and I opened discussion about the issues that I saw, the glass ceiling that I felt like I was under, but I was met with excuses. This is a very important piece though. I don't believe in just complaining to complain or quitting when something gets hard. I tried to find solutions, and I had many ideas on something that we could work out, but it really just came down to differing beliefs and power. So I started applying at other jobs and other schools, and I stumbled on Bookkeeper Launch in August of 2017, right when school started. Before I go into BBL, let me pause to go over the numbers on ROI for college. So the investment for my college education was approximately $40,000. At the school, I made just over $20,000. Over the course of 3 years, this means $40,000 was invested for an ROI of just over $60,000. That's not great. So I found Bookkeeper Business Launch in August of 2017, and it was the absolute best investment I ever made. $1,300 changed my life, and you can find more about that program in this video here. Bookkeeper Launch is an online course that teaches people without a background in finance how to do bookkeeping and how to run a bookkeeping business. It takes people like me who were teachers and turns them into entrepreneurs. 1 month after purchasing the program, I finished the entire course and launched my business in the beginning of October 2017. I was so desperate to have a way that I could leave my full-time job that I worked and I taught from 8 o'clock to 3 o'clock every day. And then I went home and did the modules inside of Bookkeeper Launch from 4 p.m. to 10 p.m. every evening for a month. In October of that year, I was still doing both. I was getting my business off the ground and running, and I was still teaching full time. I felt so aligned with bookkeeping and entrepreneurship and finance, but I knew I couldn't quit my job because I had no income coming in and we were still basically living paycheck to paycheck. And I remember so clearly God planting this thought in my head of, why don't you trust me? Why don't you pursue this? I've called you to it. Why don't you trust me enough to go for your dream? And I really fought back against this for a long time. It was so risky, but in reality, doing both was absolutely killing me. I was exhausted. I was mentally drained. I cried a lot. Finally, I couldn't ignore God's invitation any longer to quit my job, and in November, I became a full-time entrepreneur. I worked really hard after I quit my job, and sure enough, God came through. I made $175 my first month in business, and I made $14,000 my first 6 months in business. By mid-2018, I had a really solid base of bookkeeping clients, and a few of them started coming to me and saying, "This is great. You've absolutely revolutionized my business, but my personal finances are still a wreck. Can you help me with this part of my finances?" This is when the light bulb really went off for me, and I went through a program to become a financial coach. I'll do a review of that in a separate video. Spoiler, I didn't love it. After I finished the program, I started taking on beta clients at the end of 2018/beginning of 2019. Then I made the complete branding switch from Jessie Marie Bookkeeping to Financial Coach Jess in summer of 2019. Since starting my business 2.5 years ago, I've invested just over $15,000 into things like professional development, training, and furthering my education. Pretty good ROI when you consider I've generated over $150,000 in revenue. The point, though, is not to say don't invest money in college, that it's not a good investment. I am so thankful for my time that I had at Missouri State University, and I wouldn't have done anything differently. The point of this video is to bust the myth that it takes money to make money. It doesn't. It takes a valuable product or service to make money. Just because you invest a lot of money in something doesn't mean that the ROI is automatic. I also hope that this video really inspires you if you're thinking about quitting your job and going for your dream. If you're really unhappy in your workplace and you're miserable and you're trying to get out, let me just encourage you that there is hope. You can start a business and you can learn something new that you've never done before. So I'm curious, what is the ROI on your college education? This really leads into my next video, which is 10 money mistakes people make in their 20s. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys on my next video.